Hi everyone, this is Robin Nielsen with Insulite Health. It's so great to be here with you today. Welcome to Tuesday Tip. Today, I'm going to share all about how to eat for PCOS. How to eat for PCOS. It's a huge topic. It's one of the most common questions that I get. And so I thought it would be just a great thing for us to discuss today in all aspects. Right? So it's so great to be here with you. I would love to hear what your greatest challenge is around food. What's your greatest challenge around food? And if you've joined in today, please say hello. Please like this. Please share it with any of your friends who you think would really enjoy or benefit from the information today. So this is how to eat for PCOS, how to eat for symptoms of hormone imbalance. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things that really will impact your choices. So I've made some notes here for myself. And then if there's anything, let's see. So Sujat said, you can't hear me. Unable to hear anything. Can others hear me? Can you hear me? Hi, Teresa. Oh my gosh, it's so great to see all of you here. Wow. If you can't hear me, please let me know. Otherwise, Sujat, you might need to turn up the volume so that you can hear me. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Oh, thanks, Sylvia. Great to see you here. Great to see you here. All right. And thanks, Stephanie. Okay, so Sujata, you just need to turn up the volume. Cool. Okay, so let's get started. So post your challenges around food. Some of you I know are part of our VIP community. So you are a current customer of the Insulite 5-element system, and so you might be a little bit more advanced than some of the others, but we all have challenges around food, myself included, right? It doesn't just one day end. It's a constant journey. One of the things that I hear often is, once I heal my symptoms of PCOS, am I done? Like, is PCOS gone? And PCOS is never gone, okay? So we will always have challenges with our hormone receptors, with levels of hormones, with insulin and insulin sensitivity potentially. We're genetically wired to have challenges that last a lifetime. But you can learn how to better take care of yourself, and then you can keep it going. So I think the biggest thing around food is really learning what works well for you. Does that make sense? Because each one of us is so uniquely individual, and some foods can work for one woman, but they don't work for another woman. And I know especially, with some of the diets that are out there right now, and I'm going to talk about some of those. It might work well for you, but it might not, right? It might be completely the wrong thing for you. So it's really important to try different things and then see what really nourishes you the best. So again, could you post any questions that you have, any specific questions around food? For PCOS, for healing your symptoms, for anything. So if you have any questions around food, please post them here because I would love to answer them for you during this program. All right, so again, we're talking about how to eat for PCOS. Okay, how to eat for PCOS, how to eat for symptoms of hormone imbalance. I think one of the biggest things that happens is especially around weight. So we're really motivated if we've gained a lot of weight and it's hard to lose. And I'd just like to take a moment to address weight gain with PCOS because it really drives, it's a big why for us. It's a big, why do we want to change our eating habits? It's a big motivator. And I think it's really important to understand that what's most important is not to focus on your weight. In fact, I'd love for you to just throw that scale away. But I'd rather have you focus on habits and foods that are going to really nourish and support your body. Because as you come back into balance, sometimes you have to gain a little bit of weight before your body is going to release it again, which is fine. Just know that. And if you're always getting on the scale, it's going to be really frustrating because as your body heals, sometimes you gain a little bit of weight, but then you will start to release it. And it'll just be a side benefit of you taking much better care of yourself. Does that make sense? Well, I've seen that so many times in our community. In fact, Angie, who does a lot of our social media posting here on Facebook, that's exactly what happened to her. She lost, we say release. She released 70 pounds just by taking better care of herself. She wasn't working on weight loss. She had gained a ton of weight and she felt so miserable. And just by focusing on taking better care of herself, she lost the weight. Same thing with Rebecca, right? So that's just my little aside about weight. Let's not focus on weight loss. Let's focus on just eating to nourish your body and really alleviate a lot of the icky symptoms that we get with PCOS. And weight's just one of them, right? So if you're noticing that your menstrual cycle is coming more regularly, that you're starting to ovulate, that your facial hair is not growing as quickly anymore, it's slowing down. If you notice that the hair on your head is starting to get thicker again, and you see these little things sticking up, all this new hair growth, then you know that you're on the right track and the weight's going to start coming off. So I wanted to talk about, thanks Megan so much for posting questions. Thanks Sylvia, Rebecca, really appreciate your questions. So we'll get your questions. Oh, okay. Interesting, love your questions. Cool, we're gonna get to those. Okay, so thanks Sylvia, Rebecca, and thanks Megan. So yeah, keep posting your questions and I'll get to them in just a little bit. So first I want to talk about, what is your big why? Like, why are you motivated to change your diet? And as I was laying on a massage table a few days ago, trying to work out some pain I have in my right shoulder, and it was a therapeutic massage, so it wasn't fun in any way. And as the therapist is, pressing on a pain point and moving my arm up and down, tears are rolling down my eyes. And I'm thinking, how can I change the way I'm living my life so I don't have to go through this pain anymore, right? How can I stop plowing through life so I don't have this pain in my right shoulder? Now, I can blame tennis, I can blame, my busy lifestyle, a lot of computer work, I can blame whatever I want, but the bottom line is I have to change something I'm doing in my life or I'm going to continue to have this pain, right? And that can be the same for I'm going to, my hair is going to continue to fall out, right? I'm going to continue to have facial hair growth. I'm going to continue to gain weight, whatever your pain is. So let's take just a moment and I want you to think about, why do you want to eat better? Why do you want to change your diet? Why are you here today? So just take a minute and think about that. What is your big why? Why do you want to feel better? Why are you motivated to make some pretty big changes in your life so that you can feel better? Like, why? Why? Is it, for me, my big why is I get very angry if I cannot do the things I love, right? If I couldn't be here talking to you today because of my health, I would be very angry about that. Whenever I get sick, it's the loneliest journey ever, right? So if you can't get up off the couch, if I have a cold or the flu or something and I can't get up off the couch, oh my gosh, I'm miserable, right? I mean, I feel stuck. I feel claustrophobic. Like I can't do anything. I just have to be, and that's hard for me, and I love doing things. That just really nourishes me. So I want to be able to do all the things I love I want to be there for my kids. I want to be there for my parents. I want to be there for my beautiful husband, call him my hot, sexy lover, right? I want to be there. I want to be there for me, right? So what's your big why? You can write that, type that if you want, share that. What's your big why? Because in order to change the way you're eating, it can be hard. You know, we were talking about that this morning on our team meeting, how, you know, you go out to eat, your friends order pizza, and now all of a sudden it's not on your, you know, list of things that are going to make you feel better. And so how do you deal with that, right? It's not easy. So that's why I say, what's your big why that's going to help you make some big changes? And we have to make big changes with our eating if we want to see different results. Would you agree? Yeah. And I certainly had to do that. I had to make some pretty big changes to see some different results for myself. So, so we talk about food for PCOS as it's number 2 out of our 5 elements, and it's food as medicine. So using food as medicine, okay? Food as medicine, but that sounds terrible in my opinion, right? When I think of eating medicine, I think, oh, doesn't taste so good. So I'd like to reframe that just a little bit and really use food as nourishment, right? Because if you're going to start only one place, just make some big changes in one area of your life to see some pretty big results, it would be using food, okay? So I'm glad you're here, because using food is really the way that you can see some pretty amazing changes in a really short period of time. And if you talk to any functional health expert in even losing weight, they will tell you, forget about exercise. You have got to change the way you're eating and focus on sleep. Pretty crazy, huh? It's a lot different than it used to be, because we now know that exercise will make you stronger. It won't necessarily fix your metabolism, okay? And plus, it won't give you the nutrients that you need for your body to function properly. Okay, so one thing that makes us very unique as human beings is that we rely on the bounty of the earth to live. We rely as human beings on the bounty of the earth to survive. So if you can start looking at food a little bit differently, it makes all the difference. So when you look at your plate of food now, you want to be thinking, is this plate of food or this bowl of food? So I always eat in a shallow bowl. I never eat on a big plate. And the reason is because on a big plate, my food just gets lost, right? My food gets absolutely lost. It's just too big. So I use a shallow bowl, and then I just put a little bit here and there, you know, and I fill it full of veggies, and then I, you know, put my meat and my fats around that. And so when you look at your plate, you want to see like really vibrant food, because it's the energy in that food that is going to give you energy. So I interviewed, a gentleman, I'm trying to remember, Dr. Anderson, and we had on the call, so Dr. Anderson is an MD who also happens to be an amazing farmer, and on our call was also a farm expert, Mark Nakata, who runs a farm in the San Joaquin Valley in California. And I interviewed them years ago, and they said, you know, if you want to pick out really nutrient-dense food, just take a kid with you. Mark Nakata said children have this innate ability to pick vegetables and fruits that are very nutrient-dense, just with their really bright colors and just really nutrient dense. So, you know, when we go to the market to pick out food, whether you go to a farmer's market or you go to the grocery store, a lot of times at the grocery store, food has traveled a long ways. Would you agree? So food travels a long way, and then as a result, it's picked way too early. So our vegetables are picked way before they're ripe. because they have to be able to last like 2 to 3 weeks on the shelf. So as a result, they're not very nutrient dense, right? So from this day forward, you want to start looking at the stores where you buy your food. If you can find a farmer's market that's local, right, that's a much better place because the farmer just picked that food. The farmer just picked the vegetables that you see on their stand. And you can ask them about their vegetables, right, or their fruit. You can say, so where are you located? You know, what farming techniques do you use? Do you use pesticides? Do you use herbicides? You know, I'm looking for foods that have less toxins in them. Is this a good choice? And then you can say, what is this? I've never seen this before. How do I cook it? It's so cool. The farmer will give you so many ideas, and they're super excited about food, right? So when you go to your local farmer's market, the farmer is so excited to tell you about their food. Oh my gosh. So when we go back to how food makes us humble, I'm going to just rate that. So we rely on the bounty of the earth to live. Okay, just going to share that. So without food, right? Without meats, without fish, without eggs, without nuts and seeds, without vegetables, we could probably live okay without fruits, but maybe not. I mean, very high in vitamin C, right? Without fruits, without all those things. That's pretty much all the categories, right? That includes the healthy fats too. Without all those things, we can't survive, right? We would die. So when you sit down to eat, you not only want to fill your beautiful shallow bowl with beautiful nutrient-dense foods, vegetables and your meats and your oils, healthy fats, but you also want to bless it. Right? So this is called mindful eating. I want to talk just for a minute about mindful eating. So we want to start eating more mindfully. That's a really big part of how to use food to heal from PCOS and symptoms of hormone imbalance. So bless your food, whatever that is for you. You know, if you're if you believe in God, then, you know, say a blessing, a thank you. If you whatever you believe in, you know, if you believe in just being grateful, then be grateful for the food in front of you. I think just having that sense of gratitude, no matter what your belief system, before you start eating, is so amazing. And just even holding hands with those who you're sitting with. So I'm just so grateful to be here with you. Right? I'm just so grateful to have this gorgeous food that's going to nourish us. So, you know, we're used to just sort of grabbing and going, right? So we grab food and then we're on the run. And there are a couple of concepts that I want to share. And one of them is we're either in rest and digest, or we're in fight or flight. So when we're eating, so this is part of mindful eating, right? We need to make sure that we are just eating, that we're not driving, we're not running to our next appointment, we're not taking the kids somewhere, we're not talking on the phone, we're not watching TV, right? We're just eating because we need to be in what's called the parasympathetic or rest and digest mode in order to really digest our beautiful food that we took so much time to put together, right? We made sure that we bought the right foods, we put it together, and now we're eating beautiful foods. And I also want you to know that, you know, we use the term food as medicine for element number 2, and that's because food can either harm us or it can heal us, right? So I'm going to just put that down real quick. Food can harm or heal, and I'm going to share why in just a second. But I want to make sure that your food tastes and looks delicious, right? Just like you. You want to look delicious, right? You want your food to look delicious. And you want it to taste and be delicious, because then you are more apt to continue making or assembling beautiful food. So we want your food to taste and look delicious. Okay, really important. Whew. Okay. I'm getting hungry. I always make myself hungry when I talk about food. How about you? Yeah. Okay, so give me some more comments. I need more comments. Maybe they're here. Oh, yeah, they are here. Okay, thanks so much, you guys. So give me more comments that are coming up for your questions as I'm talking. So we've learned that food is medicine. We've learned that we're really humble as human beings because we rely on the earth to feed us, right? We're not relying on the lab. We're not relying on chemistry. We're not relying on the latest and greatest new flavor that was made in a laboratory that makes us crazy and sends our hormones completely out of balance, right? So what's really important when we're eating is to eat whole, real food, okay? Whole, real food. Whole, real food, okay? That's super important. Whole, real food. So if it comes in a box, probably not good for you. I remember my family went and had Thanksgiving one year with another family, and I said, oh, gee, what can I bring? I wanted to contribute to the Thanksgiving meal. And she said, oh, just do some mashed potatoes. And I said, okay, great. Would love to do that. So I brought a bag of russet potatoes to her house, just a few, and I said, okay, so I need a pot, because I'm going to just boil these potatoes and then I'll make the mashed potatoes. And she said, well, didn't you just pick up a box of the instant mashed potatoes? And this is probably 20 years ago. And of course, even back then, I never would have thought of that. Never, ever, ever knew that you could make mashed potatoes from a box, right? I was so naive. So I said, no, can you really do that? Right? It was like making macaroni and cheese or something. And she said, oh yeah, that's what we've always done, right? So I said, well, I'm going to make them how I know how to make them, which is, just boiling the potatoes and mashing them, putting in a little bit of cream and some butter and good to go, right? So you might have to relearn a lot of things depending on what your family taught you, right? Because that's the epigenetic part, right? That's the external influences that we've been given, and a lot of it is just like weird family stuff, right? I never grew up with macaroni and cheese, but a lot of people did. And it's completely, prepackaged food coloring and highly processed grains and some sort of cheese that is in powder form that somehow melts over your macaroni. I mean, I never liked macaroni and cheese, so I can't relate to those who love it. But, a lot of kids grow up with macaroni and cheese. So we want to focus on eating whole, real foods, and I'm going to share what that looks like in just a minute. So things that you want to consider when you're choosing the right foods for you are, you want to consider the health of your gut, right, of your digestive tract. So I don't want to talk too much about digestion because I can do that on another program, but just know that you start digesting your carbohydrates here in your mouth with your saliva. You digest your protein in your stomach. You digest your fats in your small intestine, and then your colon is where you absorb all the nutrients and your toxins that your body wants to eliminate end up there. That's why fiber is so important. And then you excrete what your body doesn't need or want anymore, right? So that's that toxin removal part that your liver has metabolized. So you've got to take a look at your gut health. Are you having regular bowel movements? Are you having a bowel movement every single day? Is it well formed? Is it dark in color, right? You're looking for all those things. Or do you feel bloated? Do you burp? Do you have gas? Like, what's going on for you? I mean, just by healing your digestion, you can release so many pounds, right? You have an overgrowth of candida. which is very common if your gut is not in good shape. And that could be for a lot of reasons, okay? So we just want to make sure that you have really strong, hearty digestion. Keep in mind that with PCOS, symptoms of hormone imbalance, there is this chronic underlying inflammation going on. So you've got to squelch or tame the inflammation, right? So inflammation is just that your immune system is busy trying to fix things. That's really what it is, and it can be due to a lot of things, and high insulin levels cause inflammation. And most women with PCOS, symptoms of hormone imbalance, have elevated insulin, potentially because their insulin receptors just don't work well. There's a genetic component, and then, of course, our diet isn't good. So we've got all sorts of things going on there. So you want to make sure that you eat in a way that is going to reduce inflammation, right? So if we're eating foods that we are sensitive to or that we have a response to that our immune system doesn't like. So for me, my immune system does not like, my gut, whatever, does not like wheat. Doesn't like wheat. It doesn't like gluten of any kind. In fact, sometimes it doesn't like corn, doesn't like a lot of grains. That can raise I can feel it like that if I eat grains and I haven't balanced them out enough with proteins and fats. I'm not going to feel so great after I eat, right? So I have to be super, super careful. So that's what you're looking at. So if we have to heal some inflammation first, if we have to lower inflammation, then the food choices we make are really important. So you want to take a look at 7 foods that can really keep your inflammation high, and that's wheat or gluten, soy, corn, sugar. Of course, sugar is super inflammatory, and a lot of us are hooked on sugar. You know, it's how we survive. So, you know, it's important to be aware of that and then start weaning yourself off of anything that has added sugar. I call them, so eggs sometimes can be really inflammatory for people as well. So eggs, and eggs are an amazing food. Like, I absolutely love eggs, but we eat so many of them that oftentimes we have an inflammatory response. It's called an IgG, or a delayed immune response. And sometimes you just can't tell, but it's keeping you stuck, right? So you can always do a food intolerance test. And what that means is that you have to do, we have one that you can get through us if you want to do it. Or you can just start eliminating these foods and you'll feel, I'll tell you how to do it in just a second. So wheat, gluten, soy, corn, sugar, eggs, and then what I call frankenfoods, which are just artificial, food colorings and additives, artificial sweeteners like sucralose, Splenda is sucralose, wrecks your gut, NutraSweet, which makes your brain go haywire, which is aspartame, right? So all these different foods can just, anything processed is a frankenfood. And then you could add in alcohol or and caffeine, depending. Alcohol. Let's see. Why is that coming up that I didn't spell it right? Oh, okay. I'm getting creative with my spelling. And caffeine. So I'll post these. Let me just count how many I have there. So wheat, gluten, soy, corn, sugar, eggs, frankenfoods, alcohol, caffeine. Okay, so I have 8. If you are a slow caffeine metabolizer like I am, you may want to eliminate caffeine from your diet, or at least just do a little bit. So it kind of depends on how you fall asleep, stay asleep. If you're good at falling asleep and staying asleep, then don't worry so much about whether or not you drink caffeine, because like matcha green tea is great. Green tea is amazing for helping with gene expression. It's fantastic, and also with the polyphenols. So green tea has polyphenols that are absolutely fantastic, and it's not quite as much of a jolt as coffee is. And coffee also has amazing polyphenols. So it's just whether you're a fast or a slow caffeine metabolizer. All right, and then sugar for sure, eggs, If you eat a lot of them, you might want to reduce those. So if you were to eliminate those foods for 1 or 2 weeks, eliminate those foods, you would substantially decrease inflammation. So you're going to get rid of anything that's prepackaged, because those are frankenfoods, right? And going to get rid of frankenfoods, so anything that's packaged. You're going to stick to eating whole, real foods, and you're going to eliminate those 7 or 8 things. So focus on whole, real foods. So if you eliminate them for 1 to 2 weeks, you could really notice a big, big difference in how you feel. Hey, babe. Okay, we've got people coming and going here. It's making a little bit noisy. I apologize for the background noise. All right, so so it's called, basically you are doing a little bit of a food elimination diet, okay? So you're gonna do a food elimination diet for, this is what I teach in my cleanse program and the detox that I do. We do a food elimination diet for 1 to 2 weeks, and the results are absolutely amazing. So this alone can really reduce inflammation for you, okay? Can really reduce inflammation, which means you're gonna feel so much better, right? You might notice like a change in your mood like that. You might notice that your pants fit better when you put them on in the morning. It is crazy amazing. I've had women drop 90 points in their total cholesterol in 2 weeks. 90 points, like that is huge, right? Because you're reducing inflammation. So just take those foods out for 1 to 2 weeks. Just eat really clean, right? Eat really clean. And then you can start to reintroduce them and see what you notice, because now you've let your immune system heal, and you'll notice if your body doesn't like it pretty darn quick. So what you would do is, once you've done your 1 to 2 weeks of eliminating those foods, then add back in 1 food at a time. So let's say, sorry, dairy needs to be on there too. Sorry about that. Add dairy to this list for sure, okay? Add dairy, yeah, because dairy is really inflammatory. And plus it has a lot of hormones in it. So add dairy to this list. Sometimes I can remember them all, sometimes I forget one, because I think I added caffeine and alcohol for sure, because alcohol metabolizes into a poison, which just keeps inflammation elevated. So then just reintroduce 1 food at a time. So so let's say that you decide to add in eggs as your first food. Then eat a bunch of eggs in 1 day. Have it breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? And then the next day, see what you notice. Maybe after 1 meal, you notice that your nose is starting to run, or that you feel bloated again, or you gain weight and you just feel really heavy, or you get a headache. I mean, there are a number of symptoms that can happen. So maybe it's after 1 meal, maybe it's after 2 meals, maybe it's at the end of the day. It can be up to 72 hours. So ideally, take 2 to 3 days to add just 1 food in and see what you notice. If you're good to go and you don't notice anything, then add in the next food and see what you notice. And by doing this, you can figure out which foods are really giving you a problem, okay? Keep a journal. I would never add back in the frankenfoods. You know, why would you add back in chemicals, right? They're just going to really, a lot of times they're hormone disruptors, right? They're going to make you feel terrible, and they're not going to give you any nutrients, right? They're not going to serve you. So, so don't add those back in ever. You would add back in alcohol very sparingly, right? Because it can raise estrogen, lower progesterone, that sort of thing. All right, so I'm sure that you have all sorts of questions coming up. I see one coming in about exercise. I'm not going to answer that today, because this is all about food today. So if you have any questions around food, please ask. And then any other questions we'll be sure to answer after the program. So let me just share a few more things, and then I'll answer your questions. So anything that's coming up for you, please post. Be sure to like this video. Be sure to share it with your friends. It's the way that we can really support each other to feel our very best, right? To get over some of these icky symptoms that we're experiencing. All right, so so we've talked about really supporting better insulin levels, right? So we want to get insulin down. which means that we're going to be getting we're going to be lowering inflammation. It also means that we're going to be making less potent androgens. We're going to be lowering our testosterone levels a little bit. We're going to be raising progesterone. We're going to be raising estrogen, right? We're going to be more balanced. We're just going to feel so much better. So let me talk about a few different diets right now, and then I'll get to your question. So the very best diet for you is a whole real foods diet. That's the very best diet. You want to have a diet that's absolutely sustainable, right? For the rest of your life. You don't want to have to eat some crazy diet that's really restrictive that you can't maintain. That makes no sense, right? So just get back to eating whole real foods, and they look like proteins, fats, and carbs, and every meal you have a little bit of each, right? That's where you start. And that keeps you hormonally balanced. So within an hour of waking, you eat this really beautifully hormonally balanced meal. And then every 5 hours, 4 to 6 hours, you eat again a really hormonally balanced meal. And then you stop eating by 7 p.m. because after 7 p.m., insulin can really get out of whack, right? And you want it to be at least 3 hours before bed that you stop eating. Okay, so stop eating by 7 p.m. And then you want to wait 12 and a half hours between dinner and breakfast to start eating again. Because when you don't have food in your digestive tract, you are healing. And when you're healing, you are feeling so much better and you're looking so much better. So it's really a trick to, it's really an anti-aging trick as well as a balancing hormones trick, right? So you're going to be reducing wrinkles, you're going to be feeling stronger and more energetic and happier, right? Because it really impacts your brain chemistry in a really great way. Everything is going to improve. So you're either digesting or you're healing, but you're never doing both. So when you're digesting, you're hoping to get all those amazing nutrients from the meal that you just ate, so that when you're not digesting, you're healing, right? So you're going to use those nutrients for healing, and it actually brings on something called autophagy. And autophagy is this process that your body uses to clean up cells that aren't working very well. It'll either clean up cells if it has the right nutrients, or it'll just kill the cell. So you're constantly turning cells over, and only the healthiest ones are sticking around. But you will not effectively use the process autophagy if you're always digesting. So you've got to give yourself that 12 and a half hour window between dinner and breakfast to heal. Plus you'll sleep better if you don't have a, tummy full of food, right? You can't sleep well if you're still digesting. So that's eating for hormone balance. So when you eat breakfast within an hour of waking, you're setting your circadian rhythm for the day. You're telling your body, hey, it's time to get going, right? Let's get that cortisol up, jump out of bed, do your morning routine, eat a high protein breakfast, very low carbs for breakfast, high protein, fat, right? Protein and fat for breakfast, and then eat every 4 to 6 hours, your protein, fat, carb, right? And you're good to go. Do not count anything. Don't count calories, don't count carbs. If you are having trouble with a regular menstrual cycle or ovulating, or you're noticing some pretty icky perimenopause symptoms as you work your way into menopause, it's probably because you might not be eating enough carbs. So just make sure that your carbohydrates come mostly from vegetables, right? So your non-starchy vegetables, your starchy vegetables, 1 piece of fruit a day, right? Because we're trying to keep insulin low, so don't eat too much sugar. Stick to 1 piece of fruit a day. Berries have a lot of fiber and they're lower in sugar. Grapefruit is lower in sugar. So there's some great choices. I'd also love to hear, what are some of your favorite foods that you eat for PCOS, right? What are some of your foods that really nourish you? I'd love to hear about that. Okay, so then let's just build a plate real quick. So we've got this shallow bowl, right? I don't have a big plate. I have a shallow bowl. And in it, I fill with vegetables. And so you can use scrambles, you can use stir fries, you can, let's see, what else? Scrambles, stir fries, are great. Crock pots are great. So big chilies, chilies are one of my favorites because you can throw so many vegetables in there. So whatever you have in your refrigerator, just chop them up and throw them in, right? A big can of fire roasted tomatoes, so delicious. Add some chili powder, you can add a can of Adzuki beans. You ever heard of Adzuki beans? Adzuki beans are also called Aduki. So it just depends on what brand you get. They're really high in protein and of course really high in fiber. So they're a bean that is pretty terrific for PCOS. So they're Adzuki beans or Aduki beans, and you can use those in your chili, and then you can, or no beans. Sometimes I don't use any beans, and then I just put my ground meat in there. So you can do ground turkey or ground beef or ground lamb. And I saw a post, about grass-fed. So your meats you always want your meats to be 100% grass-fed. So you want to eat a healthy animal, because whatever you're eating is going to influence your body, right? So if you're not eating meats from a healthy animal, then you're going to stay sick because the animal was sick, right? So we know that, for instance, if you're eating beef and they have eaten grains, then they are inflamed and they have a huge overgrowth of E. coli in their gut, and now you're eating an inflamed food or inflammatory food. So your foods can either be inflammatory or they can be anti-inflammatory. So focus on anti-inflammatory foods, right? So 100% grass-fed meats, wild-caught, not farm-raised fish and seafood, right? Wild-caught, not farm-raised, because same thing, the farm-raised are fed grains. Grains are inflammatory. And that goes for people too, so keep that in mind. We want to keep our grains a really small amount. Beans a really small amount, okay? And if beans don't work for your digestive tract, you don't have to eat them. But you want to make sure that you're getting enough fiber, right? That's where the Insulite 5-element system is so helpful. And then your healthy fats, right, are things like avocado, coconut, coconut oil, olive oil, olives, eggs. The yolk of the egg has really healthy fats. Butter, pasture butter, so butter that comes from cows that have eaten 100% grass, right? Pasture butter. Ghee, clarified butter, comes from cows that have eaten 100% grass. Nuts and seeds, fantastic fats. And then your carbohydrates. So we think of carbs, we often think of breads and pastries and sandwiches and things like that, but those are not whole real foods, right? So we don't eat any baked goods, right? That might be a treat, very rarely, maybe once a month, but a very infrequent treat. And then we're really focusing on vegetables, right? Vegetables are our main carbohydrate, and the more vegetables you get, the more alkaline your body becomes, right? So the higher the pH, the more minerals you have in your body for all the different functions, okay? So it's really super important. And then other carbohydrates are fruits. Fruits are a carbohydrate, and then grains and legumes are carbs. Okay, so those are your proteins, fats, and carbs, and that's what you want to focus on when you build your meal. So you've got your shallow bowl, right? And I fill the bottom with vegetables, either raw veggies. If it's hot outside, raw veggies work well. Takes a lot of fire in your digestive tract to digest. So you want to make sure that if you're having trouble with digestion, that you actually cook your vegetables, okay? If you have a strong, hearty digestion, then raw is fine, right? And if it's hot outside, good. And so just fill your shallow bowl with vegetables, whether they're steamed, sauteed, in the form of chili, whatever it is, or whether big handful of greens, right? And then I put my, a little piece of meat on there, and I put some pumpkin seeds, which are really high in zinc and fantastic for women with hormonal issues. Zinc is like one of my favorite nutrients. So I put pumpkin seeds on there, toasted, put a little bit of sea salt because it's so great for supporting our adrenal glands and overall health. Always use sea salt, not table salt, sea salt, right? Or Himalayan pink salt is fantastic. And then you can drizzle a little olive oil on there, put some avocado on there. And you've got this, fabulous meal. And again, I love soups, because soups you can put a lot of veggies in. We have a ton of recipes on our website. I'm just going to put this up, recipes at PCOS.com. So you'll learn, what to put together. You'll just find some great things that you love. And there's some muffins. We might call them cupcakes on our site, but oh my gosh, they're my favorite really quick go-to food. Once you've identified, which foods might be causing you inflammation. So let me take some questions now. you know what? I just want to touch on some of the specialty diets, so let's touch on these. So keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, vegan, vegetarian. Okay, so here are the diets that I just want to touch on. So there is a time and a place for all of these. I mean, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to try some of these different diets. I think for me, the keto doesn't work if it's too high fat. So if if my directive is to eat a can of coconut oil every day and really focus on fats, I get very inflamed. So the acne will come back with a vengeance. I have genetics that I have to be really careful with fats. So I need fats that are more plant-based, like olives. Coconut is plant-based, but it's a medium-chain triglyceride. So I eat less of that and more. Even avocado is a little bit tricky for me. So it helps if you know your genetics a little bit. But, I take some enzymes, and in our Insulite Nutrients, we have enzymes to help you break down your fats, proteins, and carbs better. So it really helps with digestion a lot and helps to reduce inflammation. But anyway, you'll find those delicious muffins. That recipe is their chocolate. They're so good. So there is definitely a time and a place for keto, intermittent fasting, paleo, but they're not really sustainable. So you want to first focus on a whole real foods diet, and then you can start experimenting a little bit. And I think that my favorite is the intermittent fasting. So keep in mind that each woman is different, right? And I know we have one woman in our community who became a vegetarian, and that has really supported her in a big way. She was able to lose like 100 pounds. But that's not the case for a lot of women. So for instance, I could not be vegetarian. I would feel very weak and not well. So if it works great for you, that's wonderful. But again, a lot of vegetarians end up moving towards a lot of packaged products because it's quicker and easier. So you just have to be really careful if you're going to become vegan or vegetarian that you really focus on making the meals yourself. It's very, very important. I've interviewed, a lot of women where that just didn't work for them. Vegan, vegetarian didn't work. But again, it's worth experimenting. A lot of times you'll feel better for a few months, and then all of a sudden your energy just is in the tank. You need a lot more B12. You need a lot of zinc if you're vegan or vegetarian. So just, pay attention to that and definitely get extra nutrients. Intermittent fasting, I love, and just by waiting that 12 and a half hours between dinner and breakfast is intermittent fasting, right? So you're already doing it. If you're starting to feel pretty good and you're falling asleep okay and staying asleep, you can extend that to up to 16 hours. So, for instance, you can stop eating by like 7 at night and then eat again at 12 the next day, eat lunch. But you could even have a little bit of fat in the morning just to extend the intermittent fasting out a little bit longer. So you can go up to 16 hours. You could do like 8 hours of eating, right? You can eat in an 8-hour window, and then you have a 16-hour window where you don't eat. And then a lot of healing is taking place. And if you could just do that 3 days a week, like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I mean, you might see some incredible results. But again, you've got to be able to fall asleep and stay asleep, because sleep is so important for healing, right? And for keeping us happy and for reducing inflammation. So if anything messes with your sleep, it's got to go. Your body just might not be ready for it, right? It's not that you can't try it another time. Go back to your whole real foods, hormone balanced diet. And then if you need to, later you can try intermittent fasting again. And the keto diet too. You know, keto was never meant to do all the time. You could do it a week on and a week off, or 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. But whenever you're off, go back to your whole real foods balanced diet. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so that's really all I have to say. I mean, I could go on and on and on about this great topic of food, because I love food, but let me just answer your questions. I've shared so much. Thanks, Sujata. She would love to hear about, she would love to hear about keto. So I'm actually not going to get into how to do keto today, but there's a lot of great information on keto. One of my favorite books is a book by Dr. Terry Walls. So that's a book on keto. You can definitely look that up. And that'll give you a lot of information. There's so much information online about doing keto too. Just make sure that it's information from a woman, okay? Because women need, it's different for women. You have to be really careful, right? We need enough carbs to feel well, right? To have a regular cycle. So you want to be really careful that you're not doing keto in a way that's very acidic. You have to make sure you get plenty of vegetables in. So be careful about that. All right, so let's see, would gluten-free be better? So I believe that's true, because oh my gosh, my cravings go through the roof when I eat wheat or gluten, and it just makes me fat. I feel tired. I feel inflamed. My digestion doesn't work right. Like sometimes if I eat gluten, it'll take me a week to get regular again. So I think it's been shown for the most part that for women with hormone imbalance, you just really want to get it out of your diet. You know, it doesn't make any sense. So thanks, Teresa, for that great question. So I shared, Aisha, all about the carbs that are great for PCOS and hormone imbalance, right? And I want somebody to share with me right now what the #1 carbohydrate is for hormone imbalance. So if you could only have one group of carbohydrates to support yourself, to heal, what would they be? Would they be vegetables, fruits, grains, or legumes? Those are your carbohydrates. Okay, I'll come up with a great prize for you if you guess. Awesome. Oh gosh, Teresa, you're so welcome. Thanks for being here. Yay, I love it that you're here. Let's see, or just not eat meat. Just found out I have PCOS. Now, what types of food should I eat to get better? Thank you, Tamoy. So just listen to this whole program and you'll get all the information. Lisa, yes, I think maybe I hadn't listed dairy, and you're absolutely right. Dairy is on my avoid list, and dairy's for the most part on my avoid list, just like gluten and sugar. I just don't eat it, right? You just feel so much better. Like, you know, we women love our dairy and gluten, right? We love it. Oh my gosh, I lived on wheat. I think I had, you know, toast for breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, a roll at dinner, and to give that up was so hard. I'm not going to lie. That was darn hard. And my cheese, I love cheese, and it's because they're so addictive. Right? I can't have just one piece of cheese, right? I can't have just one piece of bread at the dinner table. No, no, no. If I start eating bread, I eat the whole darn basket. If I have one piece of cheese, I've got to have 5 pieces of cheese, right? So it's better if I just don't get started, right? Okay, so what to do with hunger pangs? Sujata, thank you for that. So when you balance your meals, like I told you to, with the healthy proteins, fats, and carbs, your hunger pangs will go away, right? So if you still have them, you just need to change up how you're eating. You might add in some more fats, a little bit more protein, and then see what you notice and keep adjusting until those go away, okay? And you want to wait 5 hours at least between meals so that your insulin can come down, and then that's when you're healing, right? But if you go too much beyond 6 hours, now your hormones, your stress hormones come up and insulin's going to come up again. So figure that out for you. Oh, Sylvia Rebecca. So why do I want to feel better, feel good all day with energy and not sluggish, get rid of anxiety and depression, to be happy, build my family? Yeah, so those are your whys. To be happy, build your family, to be able to show up, right? That's awesome. Thank you. And Megan said, I'm a mom, and on my low depressed moody days, it's awful. And I hate the mom I am. We have a 3-year-old, 18-month-old. We want more, so I want to get healthy for another pregnancy and for my long-term mom health. That's a great why, right? And you have kids your whole life, right? You're always a mom, always a mom. And, I think every woman is a mom to someone, whether you've had your own children or not. So, we just want to be there and be able to show up for others. That's how it is for me. And Tara Ann said her big why is not being able to be the authentic me for myself, partner, children, organization. Yeah, totally agree. Okay, and then Megan says, oatmeal confuses me. I like baked oatmeal. Is it okay for you or not with PCOS? I use the old-fashioned steel-cut oats. I'm trying to get it into better eating. One was about 7-10 pounds, and I only weigh myself 1 time a week. All right. With grains, actually, steel-cut oatmeal is one of the better grains. So don't get the quick cooking steel-cut oats, because that sort of takes away the whole reason that they're lower glycemic. But use the steel-cut oats, soak them overnight in the pot, and then just cook them for a short time in the morning. And they're not only cooked well, but they're also what's called sprouted, so that it's going to be easier to digest. And then add a nice, crumbled walnuts on top, and you can even stir in a little of our protein powder, or you could crack an egg in there for some protein. Put some coconut flakes in there. Make it really delicious, right? Sounds so good. And then Sylvia says, if I can't do grass-fed, is it okay to do organic? Organic is not grass-fed, right? So organic is just fed organic grains, but it's still inflammatory. You might not get as many toxins, but it's still an inflammatory food. So it's better, but it's not an inflammatory food. All right, so I think I answered all the questions. It's just want to make sure here. Yeah, so thanks for asking this, Megan. I thought it was healthy to eat 2 to 3 hours small meals. No, it's not. So if you really want to see some pretty amazing progress, you're going to figure out how to balance your meals with proteins, fats, and carbs, and you're going to try to stretch it 4 to 6 hours between meals so you can bring insulin down. If you're always eating every 2 to 3 hours, insulin is always up, and you are continuing to create an inflammatory situation. That makes sense. Okay. All right, everybody, it's been amazing to be here with you. If I didn't cover a question that comes up for you now or comes up for you later, just post it here. Our team will see it. You can tag me in it, and I'll be sure to see it and answer. My team will also find it and have me answer. So it's been great to be here with you. Just the fact that you showed up today means that you care and that you're ready to make change. So I really honor you and applaud you for that. All right, until next time, bye everyone.